Good morning, Christ is in our midst. Η Ορθόδοξη Εκκλησία σήμερα, αγαπητοί μου, εορτάζει την απόδοση της υπαπαντής του Κυρίου. Στις 2 του Φλεβάρι, την περασμένη Κυριακή, εορτάσαμε την υπαπαντή. Αυτή η λέξη είναι λιγάκι δύσκολη να εξεταστεί από το σημερινό κόσμο. Είναι η υπαπαντή. Θα πει ότι κάπου δύο άνθρωποι, οι δύο οντότητες ενωθήκανε, συναντηθήκανε, βρεθήκανε στο ίδιο σημείο που έπρεπε να βρεθούν. Και αυτό έγινε όταν η Παναγία έφερε τον Κύριο Ιησού Χριστόν στον ναό, στην Ιεροσόλυμα, 45 να το σαραντήσει. Συνάντησε εκεί τον Σιμεών, ο οποίος ήταν γυρεός πρεσβύτης και είχε πάρει από το Θεό ευλογία να μην πεθάνει, να μην φύγει από τη ζωή μέχρι να δει τον Χριστό. Και τον είδε. Ποιος τον έφερε στην εκκλησία του? Η Παναγία, η μητέρα. Η μητέρα όλων μας. Η ουσία της εορτής που αποδίδεται σήμερα, αγαπητοί μου χριστιανοί, είναι η μητρότητα. Είναι η μητέρα, είναι η οικογένεια. Άραγε συναντάμε εμείς τον Χριστό με τα παιδιά μας, τα εγγόνια μας, τους εαυτούς μας, τον συναντάμε στην εκκλησία του. Ερωτηματικά για εσάς και για μένα, ναι, και για τους ιερείς της εκκλησίας αυτής, τα οποία δεν έχουν πολλές φορές απάντηση, αλλά πρέπει να υπάρξει. Η μητρότητα είναι ιερό πράγμα, είναι λειτουργία. Η μητέρα κάνει λειτουργία όπως κάνει ο ιερεύς μέσα στο ιερό. Η μητέρα κάνει λειτουργία στο σπίτι. Προετοιμάζει τα παιδιά να γίνουν οι λειτουργοί του Θεού μέσα στη ζωή τους. Εύχομαι λοιπόν σήμερα που γίνεται η απόδοση της υπαπαντής, η Παναγία, η μητέρα όλων μας, να φωτίσει τον κόσμο και να φέρει τη μητρότητα στο ύψος που χρειάζεται και που είναι, τόσο ώστε να ξέρουμε ποιος είναι ο σωστός δρόμος να μεγαλώνουμε τα παιδιά μας. My beloved brothers and sisters in the Lord, this is the day of the beginning of the Triodion. The Holy Church presents us with a picture that somehow does not fit with all this beautiful service and church that you see around us. Because it talks about pride and about humility. Two opposite polars of our existence. Two men went up to the temple to pray. One a Pharisee, highly respected, a man of rank, a very devout and religious person. The other, a tax collector, an outcast, nobody's friend, nobody's hero, a traitor, a robber, a scum of the earth, as we call it today. Jesus dares to compare these two people. He dares because he has a point. That's why you're here today, to hear his point. It is as if he is comparing a saint to a gangster. The comparison becomes very revealing as we overhear their prayers. The Gospel of Luke said this morning, the Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself. He stood when he prayed, which was the normal Jewish position for prayer. But if we read between the lines, we can see that the Pharisee has no objection to being seen. has no objection to be the front person. He was praying for the sake of an effect, publicity, admiration. He was thinking about himself and the impression he would make on others. The Gospel said he even prayed with himself. In other words, he talked to himself instead of God. True prayer is always offered to God and to God alone. We know that, or we should. Not so with the Pharisee. His prayer was self-congratulatory. The Pharisee's prayer begins well. God, I thank you, he said. But he spoils it. He uses even thankfulness to God to exalt himself. He thanks God that he's not like other men. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I get. He said, man, look at me. I'm beautiful, I'm excellent. Don't we see this same attitude in others today, and especially in ourselves? The self-righteous, holier-than-thou attitude that says to God, I thank you, God, that I don't steal from my business associates. I thank you that I am white and not black or brown. I thank you that I am honest and clean, unlike those other people who act as if they are animals. I thank you for I live in America and not in Bangladesh. I thank you that I live in a quiet, respectable neighborhood and not in a filthy, crime-ridden ghetto. I thank you that I am not like other men are, especially not like that neighbor of mine who goes out and plays golf on Sunday while I'm going to church. Now let us look at the tax collector. Standing alone, he did not dare to lift up his eyes to heaven. A profound statement about self-knowledge. He was too full of shame. Instead, he looked down to the ground and beating his breast penitently, he prayed. Beating one's breast in the ancient world, it was a sign of utmost and utter humility and despair. Some of us have experienced that beating our breasts, especially in the old country when somebody very dear to us has passed away and we're wailing and beating our breasts for the lost. That is what the publican did by beating his breast, for the loss that he has had of not being in connection with God. He may have been a kind father and a good friend, but it does not occur to him to mention all that. He sees himself in God's sight only as God sees him. He prays, God, be merciful to me, the sinner. In the Greek, the text says not a sinner, but the sinner. He regarded himself as the sinner par excellence. As the Pharisee had singled himself out as the holy one in the world, so the tax collector singles himself out as the greatest of sinners. What courage does it take for every one of us to do that in a sincere way? In the end, this man who knew his own sin got nearer to God than the Pharisee, who would see nothing but his own virtue. When you see nothing but your own goodness, you become self-absorbed. Your ego takes over. Everything else becomes secondary, including God. God, be merciful to me, the sinner. He has nothing to trust but the mercy of God. He looks nowhere but to God's mercy for help. He knows that people, as personified by the Pharisee, are unmerciful to him, but he believes God to be merciful. His only plea is, God, be merciful. Without this prayer, my beloved brothers and sisters in the Lord, without this prayer, Christianity would be a philosophy, a history, a code, but not a faith, a real faith, life faith that saves. God, be merciful to me, the sinner. We are always dependent on God's mercy. We can never approach Him with any claim but that of mercy. This is the one claim God will never reject. See how much this claim is built into worship services in the Orthodox Church. Today we repeated, Lord, have mercy, countless of times. Kyrie eleison, the prayer that we dare to do standing in front of the throne of God, and nothing else. The miracle is that there is mercy. That is the miracle that you and I must realize in our lives. That the mercy of God is ours as long as we come to Him with that contrition in our heart. The very heart of the universe beats God's love. I tell you, said Christ today, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. Lord, have mercy. This prayer uttered with the least particle of faith, just a little bit, will open the way for God's forgiveness and for the coming of His kingdom in our hearts. St. Isaac the Syrian wrote in the 6th century, never say that God is just. If He were, you would be in hell. Rely upon His injustice, which is mercy, love, and forgiveness. Today is called in our church calendar the Sunday of the tax collector and the Pharisee. Last night we began using for the first time this year the Triodion, the liturgical book that we shall be using during the entire Lenten season, which begins in about 3 weeks. The church, you and I, the church, has very wisely selected this parable to help prepare us spiritually for Lent. For our Lord's story today is not really about two men who went up to the temple to pray. It is about God and how He looks at sin and righteousness, how He looks at us, you and me. I tell you, this man went to the house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. The prayer for today, for you and I: God, be merciful to me, the sinner. Amen.